I'm Pastor Jake. What I want to talk about is reading between the lines. You know, it's funny that a lot of doctrines, a lot of religions have been built on this. You know, like I've heard someone say, Jesus said that we shouldn't kill. Well, that's a lie. Because Jesus never said not to kill anyone. Matter of fact, Ecclesiastes says, 3 says, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, a time to build up. You know, but just because Jesus said, don't hate your brother, in other words, a heart thing. There's a difference between killing and murder. Murder is coming from the heart. Killing is because you're here to protect something. You know, sometimes we get them messed up. Sometimes we think the heart is telling us to kill somebody so that we're protecting our family, but that's not true. It's just a lie from the devil. You know, but here's the thing, what I'm trying to say is, Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. He says over in Hebrews 13, verse 8, Jesus is always the same, since Genesis all the way to Revelations. We get stuck on reading between the lines. You know, a lot of people, that's how they build their, like I said, they build their sermons. Well, Jesus might have said it this way. Jesus might have done it this. You know, here's the thing about it is, the Bible is plain. I hear a lot of people say, no, it's not. It's so confusing. No, it's confusing because you're reading it without the Holy Spirit. So you're reading it dark. You're not using the light to read the Bible. And that's what we get. And like I said, most time people don't even think about the Holy Spirit. It's the last thing. They just think it's God and Jesus. But God says, you know, He sent the Holy Spirit for us, a helper. Jesus said it Himself, but we still don't want to use Him. A lot of people fear the Holy Spirit. You know, it's a lot here on this is that we got to quit reading between the lines. We got to quit trying to build, like I said, there's a lot of doctrine, a lot of religions built on this. Because they want to, you know, a couple of verses said this, so there are sometimes one verse says it, not all verses. I've heard one, oh, we don't do music, well, because of this one verse. Well, it's funny is, you know, Psalms, what was it, 150 says, come with loud cymbals and ganging, and it was banging on gongs and cymbals and stringed instruments. But they had one verse, they built their whole religion on it. That's why we got to step back from reading between the lines and just start reading the Bible with the Holy Spirit. Start listening to what Jesus says.